broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey everyone, welcome to AfterBuzz Special Edition of Spotlight On. I'm Kristin Carole, and I am so excited to have in the studio the talented, dashing James Scott. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh, I'm so glad. I told you when you came in, this was the most I've ever had people tweet me in my life.
Thank you, EJ fans. Appreciate it.
Yes.
And James Scott fans, I suppose.
Yeah, just in general. E-Jammy, E-Coli, E-Jabby.
That sounds a bit like E. coli.
I know, right? Or E-Jolie. That's what I'm saying wrong. All the fans out there, and they even had like a big Twitter thing for you earlier today, just giving you thanks for just being an awesome actor.
Oh, that's very kind of them. Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've really got an amazing group of people who followed me for the last, I don't know, decade, really.
Yeah, it's been, and you were a little hesitant to start in the social media, I remember, interviews.
Yeah, I'm hesitant getting into it, and now that I'm into it, I'm terrible at doing it. I mean, I actually don't think you know what, I don't think I've checked my Twitter in, I don't know, weeks. I know, I should try harder, I suppose. It's, I've just sort of taken a break from everything, and I also took a break from my Twitter account, so. And also, I don't have a fantastically exciting list of things to promote at the moment. I've never really been one of these actors who wants to send a tweet every time he goes to see a movie or, buys a new telephone or something.
Be like, hey, look at me, I'm eating some popcorn.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, well, exactly. I just don't really think people care to know that. And
I bet if you took a picture of you eating popcorn, that would get probably at least 200 favorites.
You really think
in
so?
10 minutes. Yes, I think we should experiment later, see how that goes.
Maybe.
But I want to get to know, Days of Our Lives, All My Children, EastEnders as well. I want to know, what really inspired you to start acting? How did that go about?
Well, I suppose it was always something that I really wanted to do. And I, didn't really find the opportunity while I was at school, which is where a lot of people start. Mm-hmm. And then I left school at a sort of rather early age and went to live in Edinburgh, which is the capital of Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
I have half my family Scottish, so.
I went there once, or I went to Glasgow, so kind of just right next door to it.
Yeah, Glasgow is
a little bit different.
I'm guessing not many people in Scotland are listening to this, so I can go ahead and tell you, yeah, Glasgow is, well, it's a little different now. When I was living there, it was a little bit more like the armpit of Scotland.
So this is the cousin you don't talk about.
Edinburgh was a little bit more high class. They have the castle and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But wonderful time living up there. And in Edinburgh, every year they have something called the Edinburgh Festival, or the Fringe Festival, which is the largest performing arts festival in the world. And the entire city is immersed in performance art of some kind, everything from stand-up comedy to all kinds of exciting and innovative theatre, and street performance, and the whole city is really alive. It's a quite incredible experience. If you ever have the opportunity to go, it's at the end of August. I would highly recommend it. So that really sort of inspired me to begin thinking more seriously about the possibility of having some sort of career within the performing arts industry.
What did you think about before that? What was or you just wanted to kind of see what path it took you?
I can't really explain it. I mean, I can tell you that it was always something that I thought that at some point I would do. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't always what I was pursuing immediately, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was always in the back of your mind. It's
difficult to understand. You just sort of, maybe it's like when you're growing up and you're young. You know, at some point in your life you're going to get married and have a family. Mm. You're not necessarily doing it at that moment, but you just get a sense that it's coming, and you're finding your way there, which is really what I was doing. And So then I had the opportunity to begin developing that dream in Edinburgh, then when I lived in London for a little bit, and then when I first came over to the States, I was able to indulge that passion a little bit more. And after almost about 2 years of being in Los Angeles, studying with a lady called Ivana Chubbuck, I was finally given the opportunity to be able to work, which was wonderful, and a great experience.
What was that final kick that got you out to LA?
Well,
That's quite a big change. I mean, I came from Chicago, and I can't imagine coming all the way from Europe.
oh, I fell in love with a girl. Yeah,
Oh, a girl brought you out
a girl
here.
brought me out here.
Isn't that always how it happens?
Fell in love with a girl, and I know it was a little bit of a disaster, but as those things are when you're that.
But we
age,
have to thank
usually.
her. She brought you out here, brought you on our television.
Yeah, I suppose I would be grateful. That would probably be the only thing I'd be grateful for the relationship. Coming home and finding her in bed with one of my neighbors was not top of my list of.
No, not at all.
No, but these things happen.
Oh. Well, I have to say, so did you come straight to LA or did you wind up somewhere else in America?
Well, I came straight to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And had an interesting time actually sort of finding work out here. Somebody gave me very good advice when I first moved here as an actor. As a very successful actor friend of mine said, when you get here, everybody wants to get an agent and get a manager and get seen by somebody and get their career going. And she suggested, she said, just wait a second. There's no rush. Don't try and see anybody until you're good. Because when you're young and you're fresh and nobody's really heard of you, everybody will see you once. And if you're not any good, they will never see you again. So don't worry about being seen by people, worry about being good at what you do. And I thought that was a wonderful piece of advice. And it's a piece of advice that I've been able to pass on to many people. And I think it's applicable to a multitude of different careers, especially when you're young. And you're trying to make an imprint on a career in any way, people will see you, people will meet with you, people will afford you an audience, and if you don't make a good impression, they will never see you again.
Yeah. This town's a little rough that way.
It can be a little rough, but that's life.
And studying, how did you come across? Primarily we know you in soaps. How did you get into that particular direction?
Let me see. Well, I remember Ivana Chubbuck, who was my acting coach, saying to me, I got a call from somebody at ABC, and they're looking for somebody for a soap opera. You want to do a soap? And I said, I'm not sure. She said, sure, you should do it. They pay lots of money. Go and just give it a shot, see what happens. And I thought, okay. So, and this was an audition for One Life to Live. And I went to the audition, did not get the job, didn't think much of it. And it was actually about 6 months later, I was leaving the States because I had not been able to get my visa approved. And
that's a long process.
Yeah,
too.
so I was being deported, which is where you get a letter from. I mean, it sounds very dramatic, but really I just got a letter that said, you have to leave the country by this date. And so I was going into my commercial agent's office to tell them that I was leaving, and I'd just been away with a friend of mine in Hawaii for a week. And I'd been on the phone with my lawyer trying to find some way that I could stay. And essentially, we tried all kinds of different avenues, spent a lot of time talking about different things, and eventually we reached the conclusion that there was really nothing that we could do. And at the time, I played soccer for this team called Eurotrash, which is a group of European soccer players. And we played in a league up sort of in East Los Angeles, and we were terrible. The team took an entire year to win a single game. The games would be at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
What position do you play?
Oh God, I don't know. No idea.
Just somewhere.
It varied. We weren't quite that professional, but the people we were playing were. We'd turn up at 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and all these Korean teams and these Hispanic teams would be there warming up and stretching and doing all their exercises, and we would all just be trying to throw up from drinking the night before. And
you have to keep drinking so you don't throw up, right? That's the key, right?
Yeah. Oftentimes we didn't succeed in doing that, but there was this friend of mine on the team, and he was a very funny guy, very fast talking, very quick mouth, very entertaining, not reliable at all for anything. And so he he said to me, he calls me in Hawaii, and he says, I hear you have a problem with your visa. And I said, well, he left a message. I didn't listen to it, but I picked it up, and he said, give me a call. I might have a way to help you. And I know I'm talking to my lawyers and these important people who I'm paying lots of money to, and the bottom of my list of people to call is this friend of mine. So I'm going into my agent's office to tell them I'm leaving, and my phone rings, and it's my manager. And she says, I just got a call from Disney. They really like you for this role. They want you to read for it tomorrow. And I was going to see her next and tell her that I was leaving. And I said, okay. And she said, but they need to make sure, how's your visa? They need to make sure your paperwork's in order. Yeah. And I said, well, yeah, it's maybe a small problem there. And she said, well, don't worry about it. Just do the audition, and we'll see what happens, and we'll figure it out. So I stopped outside my commercial agents, didn't walk in there, went home, got the signs, worked on the audition, went in the next day, did it. And you just know, sometimes when you've really made a good impression and you got something, you know it. And so I walked out, and I thought, well, I just did the best audition of my life for a role that I'm perfect for. And I know that at some point they're going to call up and ask for my paperwork. and I don't have any. So I really didn't know what to do. And so I thought, well, I'll call Dave, who is my friend. And so I called him up, and he said, hey, I called you a few weeks ago. You didn't call me back. And I said, well, I've been doing this, that, and the other. And he said, I heard you have a problem with your visa. I said, yes. And he goes, hold on one second. And he taps some numbers on the phone, and this voice picks up, and it's his fiance on the line. Turns out she works for the Department of Homeland Security, and one thing leads to another, and she puts up information. She says, okay. She says, you know what? Actually, under this, and this, and this, and this, I think you actually qualify for an extension for a visa for 1 year. And I thought, this is fantastic. Problem solved. She said, when do you need it? I said, well, I said, I need it really soon. She said, well, I can expedite it for you. I thought, this is fantastic. And she said, if you like, I can get it for you in about 3 or 4 weeks. Oh. And I said, no. And she said, when do you need it? And I said, I really, I need it today. And she said, well, okay, drive down here. So I drove downtown to downtown Los Angeles, and this lady figured it out. And I got the call from ABC that they wanted to fly me to New York, and they needed me to fax a copy of my visa. And geez. I had actually faxed them the copy of my visa that had just been put in my hands from the Department of Homeland Security offices in downtown Los Angeles. So.
Oh, that's...
Just made it.
That's good, though. I mean, that everything just always comes together sometimes, and then you end up as Ethan Cambius.
I did end up as Ethan Cambius. Yeah, Ethan Cambius.
How was it going into, you went into 2 big shows where, in that one in particular, you have Susan Lucci, and you're working with one of the most beloved characters, Kendall, as her love interest. How much do you look, I mean, you can't watch all of All My Children before you go onto it, or Days of Our Lives, because there's just too much of it. How do you prep for that? Or
I walked onto that set 6 weeks later for my first day's work, and I had never seen the show, and I did not know who Susan Lucci was, really.
Oh,
and did not
makes
know
it easier.
It did make it a lot easier. I think otherwise I would have been quite intimidated working with her. But I wasn't familiar with the show before the audition, and after the audition, one of the notes that I got from the network was that this character was going to be coming in from out of town and was not going to know anybody there. And so they suggested I did not watch the show, so that I did not have really any knowledge of any of the characters that were there. And so it made it very easy. I just turned up and had a wonderful first day. I think I spoke to Cameron Matheson, who, have you spoken with Cameron?
I have not, not yet. I know he did Dancing with the Stars a little bit. I'm not sure if that group maybe did. I'd have to look that up in AfterBuzz, because we do a lot with Dancing with the Stars.
Okay, well he's one of the nicest people that I've ever met. Just very warm and very friendly.
Do you still keep up with him a little bit, or any of the casts from there?
Not really, no. Every now and again I bump into somebody, but for the most part, no.
Yeah. So that film's in New York. Did you have to pick up your bags and suddenly move cross country?
Which was wonderfully exciting.
How'd you like living in New York compared to LA? I like both, so I'm not partial to any.
I didn't like living in New York. Well, there. I mean, I shouldn't. I mean, if I had to pick a yes or
Well,
a
you're
no,
a
I
lot
would
more
pick a no.
outdoorsy. It's hard to
But,
go when you're
yeah,
in a city.
I love New York City, and I try and get there a few times a year. But for me, New York is a 4-day city, 4 maybe 5. I mean, I love it. I have a wonderful time. I enjoy walking. I enjoy the energy from the street. I love New Yorkers. The city itself is a wonderful place to be, though. I mean, everything from a cultural perspective, it's incredibly rich. You know, you can find an endless supply of wonderful photography exhibitions. I'm a bit of a photography fan. Art exhibitions. There is wonderful theatre. All kinds of things. It's a much more cosmopolitan city. The way people dress is much more sort of exciting. It's a much more creative city than Los Angeles, I think, ironically. But it is also incessant and it's intense. And you know, I live at the top of a peak in the middle of Topanga, surrounded by nothing but mountains. And that's really where I you know, am the most grounded and the most creative.
And I wanted to ask with your house too. I know one of the interviews you did a little while back, you were working on it. Do you feel like your home is kind of complete now out here?
I think anybody who owns a home will tell you, but it's never
It's
complete.
never a good time.
But it's coming along. It is coming along. I'm now doing small projects. It's not like I'm trying to, you know, move the entire house now slightly to the left. I'm just, you know, I'm not really building any major things. I'm just sort of fine-tuning what I've already done, which is very satisfying, indeed. Although I have to say, this bloody drought that we've had.
Oh, and you're big in water conservation. You know, you have Earth Solution and everything like that. What do you recommend in terms of a drought, or what do you do to conserve?
Well, I mean, I have a pretty big property and I've landscaped about half of it, and everything that I planted is a native or a drought-tolerant plant.
Oh,
so
like what? Like if I were to plant something?
All kinds of things. I mean, we have an incredible selection of agaves, succulents, lavenders. You know, if you go to any of the garden centres around here, they usually have a native plant section. So things that don't require a tremendous amount of water. So I have olive trees, which don't require very much water.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, yeah. You can. I mean, first of all, it's just. I think you have to be responsible, and secondly, it's nice to plant things that do actually appear. I mean, I'll oftentimes go running up into the mountains and see things growing wild that I've actually been able to plant in the garden, which is quite fun.
Oh, that's nice.
In that way, your sort of landscape just blends into the greater landscape.
What do you do? Do you like just kind of pick them and regrow them by you, or just figure out what they are?
I do that. Sometimes I go to I mean, I'm pretty good friends with a couple of the people at the local garden centres, and then I drive out to Somas. If you've ever been out there, they have some really good centres out there. But you know, does it use water? Yes, it does. You know, I have to supplement it, especially the last few weeks. It's been so hot out here. I'm really not supplementing the water to keep these things looking luscious and vibrant, because at this time of year they look pretty dead. I'm really just supplementing the water to keep them alive, because we've had such little water. I think just about everything I planted would have been dead if I hadn't been able to do that.
Kept an eye on it. Yeah, it's been really bad out here in California.
It's been terrible. Hopefully, I mean, we have a 40% chance of an El Nino.
Yeah.
A weak to moderate El Nino, which would give us about average rainfall in California. I follow this. We had a 70% chance. Now it's down to a 40% chance.
Do you have like an Excel sheet like at home and apps for it?
No, but I check it. It's interesting. My lady and I, we went away about this time last year, and last year we had a very dry summer, and we sat down and we took a map of the United States, put it up on the computer, and looked at the weather forecast. And our sort of prerequisite for where we were going to travel is we wanted somewhere where it was raining. And we ended up, we went camping.
You're like, so Seattle.
Yes.
That's where my boyfriend's from. Yeah.
We went to Seattle. We went up to Olympia Park in Washington, the rainforest up there. And it was wonderful. We camped and we kayaked and we hiked and we had a tremendous time. And it rained a little bit every day. And it was absolutely wonderful.
You're like, I don't want to go back to the dry heat.
I don't.
Now, I have to ask you, we all know that you're leaving Days.
I am.
And incredibly sad. I mean, most of the tweets that I got from fans were, they're all going to miss you. And instead of me asking you Days of Our Lives questions, I have, you guys can see, I had to go through 100+ questions this weekend, and I couldn't even write down all of them at a certain point because I wasn't home. So if you tweeted me Thursday through about Saturday morning, yours is in one of these two as well. So I want you to pick, so it's fair. Nobody's going to yell at you about, just pick a few questions. It's like,
okay, I have
it's like magic. Oh,
what do we have here?
And I highlighted so we could do shout outs to who sent them. Now, some of you guys had the same questions, so I put.
Okay, well, this isn't a question. This is, I mean, I can read this, but this is some very
we can
things
do
that people are saying.
Generic.
Flighty Girl 1 just wanted to tell me that I'm already missed. That's very sweet of you, Flighty Girl 1. And there we go. Okay, let's see if we have some. Oh, there we go. What is my favorite and least favorite trait of EJ's? I like that question because it's unusual that I'm asked a question that I haven't been asked before, and I don't think I've been asked that one before.
So many
my
EJ
favorite
traits
and his
too.
Least favorite trait. Well, my favorite.
You're already on to the next question. Come on, James.
I feel
you got
like
this.
my favorite trait is his dishonesty.
Excuse me.
And my least favorite trait is probably his honesty.
Is that because you're so? I mean, you're an honest guy. Is it just fun to play the opposite of what you are?
It's so much fun to play the devil.
It's fun to play bad.
It really is. It really is. And you know, I would always enjoy the setup when he was just doing these devilishly awful things, much more than when he was suffering from the consequences of his actions and having to grovel to everybody else.
Or how many people have slapped or punched you on the show because of it?
Yes, many. Most with quite some enthusiasm. Alison Sweeney has quite a
a good arm, yeah.
She does.
I heard though that you tell her to slap you. Let's set the record straight right here.
I do tell her to slap me. It doesn't mean she has to go to town.
So she takes it to a certain. You should be like, Allie, let's do it at an 8 or 7. You don't have to do, 10.
The first time she hit me, we had a scene in the mortuary. My daughter Grace had passed away, and it was a scene in which we had a huge fight. And
I remember that the baby switch era.
Yeah. So I tried to goad her as much as possible into hitting me as hard as she could. And I tell you, if you watch that, you can see her position, her whole body. She gets down, she goes low to high, and she whacked me so hard. I think my jaw hurt for about a week. I mean, it cracked completely out of place.
Do you have any kind of bruise from it that makeup department had to go a little extra?
Oh, I've had some long-term red marks from her. Yeah.
Oh no.
But it's but it looked great on camera, and ultimately that's that's all you want. I mean, really, there's nothing worse than if you put a lot of work into a scene. And one of the great things about working with Alison is that she is a tremendously hard worker, and I think we have a very similar work ethic. And we really wanted it to be as good as possible. And I certainly do not and did not ever enjoy being hit in the face. It's not fun.
but neither does EJ, so it comes off
neither
correctly.
Does EJ. Yeah. But there are times at which it's just necessary for the scene. And they had a very physical relationship.
Yes, they did.
In
so many different aspects.
Okay, were there any EJ mementos he managed to sneak off the day set before he left? So did I steal anything from the show, is what that question is actually asking. I don't think so. I don't think I have any EJ mementos that I took. I did take something actually. I did take some the wedding invitations to EJ and Sammy's wedding, but I gave them to a charity for an auction.
Okay.
Which is a far better thing to use them for than just sitting in my office.
To go off of that really fast, another fan question. I'm gonna do a shout out to my mom because if I don't, she'll disown me.
What's your mother's name?
Dana.
Dana.
She's
gonna
watching. Faint. She wanted to know if you got to keep any of the suits, or does EJ hardly ever, if he's besides a bedroom scene, how many times do you think you were not in a suit?
Oh, I certainly had a good selection of suits. I do not have any VJ suits, which is a shame because he has some nice ones. But I'm not really a big suit wearer myself. I think I maybe have a couple of items of his in the wardrobe department.
Just kind of snug it away.
Well, sometimes they give you things every now and again. Over the years, I think I've collected a few things, but nothing particularly significant. But yeah, he certainly. He liked his suits. I don't know what they're going to do with all the ones they have for me.
Do they return them? Do they have an auction? Usually
what they do is, there's a shop I think it's in Burbank, and it's called It's a Wrap. And all of the studios, because all of the studios have massive amounts of wardrobe, a show will finish, and shows finish obviously all the time.
Yeah.
Or seasons finish all the time. And you very seldom see characters, especially women, dressed in the same outfit more than once. The amount of clothes they go through is extraordinary, and they're usually quite expensive clothes.
Yeah. Specially tailored and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the most, well, not most, but a significant number of shows sell the clothes to stores like It's a Wrap in Burbank, and then you can go in there as a member of the public and you can buy them, and it will actually say which show they came from.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go check that out because that looks cool.
No, it's wonderful. And many years ago, when I was a starving actor, I used to go in there to get some clothes. But I don't know who would fit into my clothes.
You're awfully tall.
I'm very tall.
That'd be hard. I think my boyfriend's about 6'3". I'm gonna get him some nice suits.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we should. Suits.
Absolutely. Okay, would love to know if James Scott felt the chemistry with Kate Mansi before the cabin scene. Ajabi was smoking hot. Oh, if I felt the chemistry with Kate Manson before the cabin scene. Yes, I think so. I think there was. Obviously, I had some knowledge of where the story was going a little ahead of time, and so when you have. And also, if you've been watching the show for a while, or if you've been reading soap scripts for a while, you can see, you read something seemingly innocuous, but if you've been doing this for a while, you put a couple of things together and that's going that way, and she's going to die. You can tell just by the little clues the writers put in there. So I made a point of sort of trying to very carefully present the possibility. Early on, and I think myself and Kate Mansi had great chemistry, and it was a lot of fun to work with her and to do those scenes with her, and to work with her through the entire storyline. I enjoyed it tremendously, and I think she's a very gifted actress, and I think she did an absolutely wonderful job. I think it's a storyline that I don't know necessarily if I'd been the head writer, if it would have been something that I would have penned, and when I first heard about it, I wasn't particularly enthusiastic about it, but looking back on it, I'm glad that we did it, and I thought it was well done. I think if you had to do it, they did it well.
Yeah, it was a very hot scene.
Yeah, and I think most of the credit for that, for the storyline working, has to go to Kate, who I thought had to portray an incredibly complicated situation. I thought she did a very good job.
And even afterwards, just you guys had such great tension the rest of the season as well.
Tension, yes. Okay,
right,
should we pick another one?
Next, yeah.
Okay.
Some of them are shout-outs.
Okay, so can you please ask me, to explain EJ's motivations for the affair? The writing muted EJ's point of view and created the false belief that EJ loved Abby. Okay. So I don't think that EJ loved Abby. And I don't. At no point did I think that he really was in love with her at all. I think that he had feelings for her in the way that they were two people who were both in a very vulnerable position, and I think back on my experiences in life. When I have found myself in situations where I've been quite vulnerable, I've been dealing with things that are quite difficult, and you find a commonality of pain in somebody else, and you bond within that. And sometimes there is a sexual dynamic to it, or sometimes. And I didn't think it was really anything more than that. The motivations for the affair. I think that it was really just, he felt that his relationship with Samantha was essentially over. And he felt rejected, and I think he felt somewhat emasculated by her, by Samantha, that is, and the circumstances. And I think he was in a situation where I think, he was, the time in the cabin, Abigail was going to reveal to Hope something about Nick's disappearance. Yeah. And I think what EJ did was he started leveraging his sexual energy to try and contain her, and in doing so found himself in a situation that I don't think he ever really anticipated getting himself into. I think it was I think it very much caught him off guard how he was affected by that, and then where it went to. And I think it was, we're all human beings. I think that everybody ultimately I think he felt very isolated, and he went and found some comfort in somebody else. And the thing that was nice about it is that she wasn't just some stranger who he had some, brief and meaningless sexual encounter. I think he genuinely really cared about her, and I think that the encounter itself I thought it was quite lovely. Actually, I really did. And I thought their relationship had a genuinely caring sensibility to it, albeit a very inappropriate one, given the circumstances.
I think we should do one more days.
Okay, one more days.
Sorry, guys, trying to get it.
Okay, what advice would you give the young you when you first started on the show? What advice would I give the young me?
I like that question. Who said that one? I don't remember.
Let's see. That is Grey Empires at Grey Empires. Thank you.
Grey Empire sent, I would say, about 10 questions.
Thank you, Grey Empires. Well, I'm glad that
they were all very good, and all of them were really good. So it was cool to read all of them.
What advice would I give to the young you when you first started on the show? Oh my goodness.
Looking back on it,
I sort of feel like the inflection of the question is, if I was to do something, I would almost give myself some advice, if you have to do it again, do this differently, that sort of thing. I don't think I do anything differently.
Maybe just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride, kid,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't, it was a pleasure and a privilege to work on that show for the 8 years that I worked on the show, and I enjoyed it very much. And maybe there would be a couple of things I would change. Nothing really comes to mind, though, if I was to go back and speak to my younger self. Now, if I was able to go back 8 years and talk to myself, there would be a lot of things that I would want to sit down with myself and talk about. But the show, I don't think, is one of them.
No.
No, I mean,
maybe you would prep Allison Hannigan and just say, or not Hannigan, oh my God, Sweeney. And I don't know why I said Hannigan. Allison Sweeney, and say, hey, maybe don't hit me as hard.
Oh no, that would have spoiled all the fun. And I'm sure she enjoyed doing it. Yeah, I think if I could go back and talk to myself, I was to sit down with myself, I'd probably have a conversation with myself about, how to be more careful and studious with your money, and give myself some better advice on girlfriends, that kind of thing.
But the one now is good.
Everything's good right now.
So I do have super fan section of this, and I have more. So every show, what I start out with personally, is I like to know, what are you obsessed with right now?
Okay.
Like if you were just, we're kind of hanging out and we talked about a lot of stuff, but like when we were out there, we were talking about how you like the Blacklist right now.
Right. What am I obsessed with right now? Goodness, I don't think I'm a particularly obsessive person. But I am enjoying the Blacklist. As I mentioned to you earlier, I came home late a couple of days ago and decided that I would watch something to help me go to sleep. And I thought, well, I've heard about this Blacklist show, so I went onto Netflix and watched the pilot. And it was very counterproductive because it's such a good show that it kept me awake for 40 minutes. And then, of course, I had to watch another episode. So I'm excited. And they're just starting the second season, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there was a spoiler because I kept watching NBC yesterday with football, and they kept saying like what was happening in the blacklist. I'm like, oh, we meet this person? Oh, geez.
Yeah, you have to be careful with that when you're watching from behind. I did that with Breaking Bad a few years ago when I sat down, and that was wonderful to have. I had 3 seasons to watch, and they were just about to air the 4th, so I was able to sit down and do huge Breaking Bad marathons.
That's exactly when I started. And I actually did that and Boardwalk at the same time. And I was like, I have to stop. I'm going to lose all my morals. I know I had a lot of people ask about, like, would you ever make the move to primetime? Is there a show that would maybe tempt you or?
Well, sure. I mean, it's interesting. Somebody else asked me this question recently, and it really, in terms of work and where my career goes next, I don't really have, I'm not really thinking of it in terms of primetime, or movies or theatre or whatever genre of work it happens to be. I think of it more in terms of the character that I'd like to play, or the type of roles that I'm really interested in. And that role may find itself in any genre. And that's really what is dictating my interest rather than where that particular role finds itself.
What about like with film, is there maybe a director or something? I know you said character, but is there somebody that you're like, I would love to work with Martin Scorsese, or? I'm
sure I'd love to work with Martin Scorsese. The first guy that came to mind was Wo Kong Wai, who is a Japanese director, who I would love to work with. This cinematography in his films and his storytelling is absolutely sublime.
I'm familiar with that name. What's one of the films?
He did a beautiful film a few years ago called 2046, set in the future. It's an independent film.
Yeah.
But I'm just the most meticulous attention to detail and a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful narrative. Really spectacular.
So let's do 3 of these, and we'll do them kind of like speed, or a couple of these, and do speed round style.
Okay.
Just so.
Do you want to ask the question?
Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, Liz Miles wants to know, we miss him. Any new projects?
No new projects. No. When I said that I was leaving the show because I needed to take a break, I meant it. And I have enjoyed very much the last 5 months, where I've really just been taking it easy.
Can we hint about a music?
Oh yeah, I did shoot a music video yesterday with a wonderfully talented artist called Roxana. This is the second time I've worked with her, and it was a great privilege to be asked to come back again. The director for that is a guy who I'd love to work with. His name is Samuel Gonzalez Jr. And aside from the little project that we did yesterday, I think he's an up-and-coming filmmaker and writer, and he's one of the most talented young people that I've had the privilege of working with. The video will be coming out sometime towards the end of October, so keep your eyes open. It's
Is it like a part 2 to Unforgotten?
It's the prequel.
It's
the prequel. It's a little, I would say it's a little sort of more stylized, a little less racy, and the narrative is a little bit more, it's a dreamscape, and so there's a lot more that can happen within it. It's fun. I mean, we had a tremendous time shooting it yesterday. It was really, really fun.
All right. Laura Lee wants to know, please ask James Scott if he ever plans to publish a book with his photographs from his travels.
I don't have any plans. Some people have very kindly suggested that might be something I could do with my photography. I'm not sure. I've never really shared it with anybody.
More personal.
Honestly, I think underlying it all is just I have this feeling that nobody really wants to see it, which may or may not be true.
Your travels are epic stories.
I go to
you had malaria in Africa. You were arrested naked in Florida. You recently went to Peru.
Yeah.
You tried something I can't even pronounce.
Ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. There we go.
I like to get out and try different things, and I certainly I'm continuing to do that. I have plans to go to India.
Is this the first time you've been there?
I've never been to India.
Oh.
No, there's a meditation resort out there called the Osho Institute that I would like to go and visit and spend a couple of weeks there. And from there, I'm thinking, I haven't really decided, but Bhutan and Nepal are both on my list. Also Bali. So
that's, man, I need to like seriously, you should do like a travel blog or travel channel show or something like that and take us to places.
It would be
for
fun.
the rest of us that are stuck.
Well, I'm very lucky. I have had a privilege to be able to go to quite a few exciting places. But I'll tell you what I learned. It was 10 years ago. I was with a girl that I was dating at the time, and we were going to go away on holiday somewhere, and we were going to go to Costa Rica. And I was on the computer just about to book it, and I thought to myself, Costa Rica sounds boring. We need to go somewhere different. And I quite literally just had a map of the world, and I went, okay, we are going to Vietnam. And
what a place to be.
I flew into Vietnam a few weeks later and got off the plane and was the tallest person in the entire country and looked around at the sea of very small Vietnamese people, none of whom spoke English. And all of whom
I hope you have a picture of that.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I got off the plane and I walked at the airport and I thought, what have I done? This is just the most ridiculously stupid thing. I thought, I'll stay here, stay overnight, I'll go back to England. Back to New York. And I had a wonderful time. Ended up traveling on Vietnam, Cambodia, and a few other places. And it was spectacular. And that really sort of ignited this bug, if you like, this travel bug in me. All
right. Oh, we got to get you out of here pretty soon. Let's do one. Oh, we already talked about it, but we'll do a shout out to Andrina G. She wanted to know where you wanted to travel to next.
Thank you, Andrina G. Glad we got the question answered anyway.
Let's do... Okay, we'll end with this one. Natalina De Luca. What can he not live without? What can you not live without?
What can I not live without? Well, there aren't really any material things I think I couldn't live without. I think... so it becomes more of a, I wouldn't like to live in a world without laughter.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good answer.
I think all love, those are any space that doesn't have those things in it, you can have everything in the world materially or nothing. And if you're rich in any of those things, emotions, then the other things don't seem to have much meaning.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great answer and great too. Well, really fast also as well. One of your biggest fans, Vanessa Renee. Can we do I didn't get one of her questions. She sent like a bunch of questions.
Vanessa, I'm sorry we didn't get round to you, but thank you so much for submitting all of these questions. I'll have a look at them when we leave.
Yeah, and I also wanted to do, and James being nice enough, I want to do an autograph, and I'll have him sign it when we're out, but I have a picture for one of you fans, and I figure for all the people who wrote in questions, if they want to give me their address, you just close your eyes and point on the sheet.
Okay.
Oh, nobody's over there.
Okay.
We'll go across. So.
No. Yes.
Karen.
Okay,
G. Peach.
Karen at Karen G.A. Peach.
So,
signed headshot coming your way.
Yes. So we'll have that, and we'll have it signed specifically to Karen. And if Karen doesn't want it or doesn't answer, I'll find another Karen, or I'll cross it off.
So what should she do? Should she tweet you? Or?
So yeah, Karen, I'll tweet you as well, and we can follow each other, and you can DM me your address, and I'll send that over.
Brilliant.
So thank you so much. I wish we had more time. Seriously, the fans are so great and so passionate, and most of them just wanted to say thank you.
Well, and I would like to say thank you to them, because it has been, they really are what makes the show and what has made so much of my career on the social. It's such a tremendous pleasure. Mm-hmm. It's really something that, I think everybody says this, but it really is true. We none of us would be able to have the opportunity that we have without the support of the people who watch the show.
Yeah.
We just wouldn't, if EJ hadn't been embraced, then he would have not have lasted for very long at all. So I'm tremendously grateful for 8 years of fantastic support. And these people take time to write letters, and they call the studio, and they put packages together, and they travel around the country. I mean, it's really incredible and humbling, the lengths that so many people go to be vocal in their support of the show and myself and the other characters have been on it as well. So I would like to say a very, very sincere and heartfelt thank you.
Well, thank you so much again, James. And thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, you have a Twitter at I am James Scott.
Yes.
Where people can tweet you.
I almost forgot what it was.
It's okay. I got you covered for that. And you can find me at Kristin Carole 13. I'll also be doing a few more Spotlight Ons and Walking Dead, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I do Movie Talk Nation red carpets and junkets as well. So for AfterBuzz TV, I'm Kristin Carole, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
And then they do a quick headshot potentially.